All right, I'm gonna tap back in. So I had a video about maybe like a few weeks back, almost near about a month, called Vid Day. It's kind of funny because I think I made a typo on the video, and then it might have got more views just because it's like a strange name, but it did get more views. And I was actually, when I made that video, I was trying to do like, I actually had somewhere I was going with it. And then I think some of the ideas that I wanted to go with it, I end up doing that in some videos since then. But I did want to like tie that back because it did get some traction with the views. And then I did have a point. Then I could feel the point more, especially then as I made that video. But I'm gonna try and come back to it just a little bit as I can now, and as I can still call to mind. But where I was going with that is that day that I made that video, I had just been about to hop up on a motorcycle. Sometimes it's strange how the things that come into your mind have to do with what's going on in life and with other people, because we actually really are connected. So sometimes these things that you say and do, they can play into what other people have going on, or what you may further say and do and have going on, just because we're connected. So sometimes, like when things are happening like that you would call like a coincidence or synchronicity, yes, it is sophisticated, the actual the function of it. And when I say function, I mean like a mathematical trigonomical function, like a some type of a cycle, that's based on some form of symmetry, but it lends itself to further symmetry and cycle. A lot of what we have going on can amount to that, like in coincidences and synchronicities that would seem profound. And that's actually how sophisticated life is. Is that it's a lot of like, as I look out the window here, there's traffic going by. Whatever traffic is going by, there would have to actually be some form of function, some kind of cyclical motion. In the first place, they're driving on tires that have wheels, but also the things that they have going on are part of a cycle. So today is now a Friday. I've it's actually Friday the 13th, no less. I've when I was a school bus driver, one of the best way to have like pull and traction and say so with the students or people you're leading just in life is actually to be interesting, funny, engaging, lighthearted, pleasant, to be enjoyable, because you need a little bit of the ability to benefit, to please, also to discipline, to reprimand. You need a dynamic balance of that. And I'd say that the more positive balance, the more positive aspects would be the more significant, and it should be the more regular. And then the discipline would be a divergence to that would be part of the divergence of the behavior. But the actual the relationship, for lack of a better word, is founded on the pleasantness and the like the surprise, because all people, but especially children, love to be surprised. So if you can benefit, if you can please, then you can discipline when it's healthy like that. I had learned that from being a bus driver, that you can't just simply lean into the authority without being either heavy-handed or losing the whole authority, because it's like it's like the authority is like an effect, and that's really a lot of life, is that authority, power, some of it is in effect as much of it in reality. And if you play it as though it's a reality, you can lose the effect and the reality. But so I would tell them like little cool stuff, like I have like Fun Fact Friday. So I'd say, if you have a Sunday as the first day of a month, then you have a Friday the 13th on your hands. So I wasn't looking at the days, and we may have got onto a Sunday that was the first day of the month. But I think if you were to look back in your calendar, we probably had a Sunday was the first day of this month, and now we have the Friday the 13th. And so I would tell them that in school, or like on these school buses. And I had learned that from like some seasoned people, elderly people that I would take care about. This lady would like do nothing but watch the news, and so she knew all kinds of crazy facts that were very interesting and had a lot to do with life. And like, she could tell you a lot about the area we're in and how this and that is getting ready to affect you in 5 days or 10 days when they do this and that at City Hall. Like, she was cold like that. But she would also she would commend me to pray for people that had like people blocks away. Like, yeah, yesterday something horrible happened on the train. We need to pray for those people. Like, and she really meant it. So she would watch the news, but she would also be praying for the news. So she'd be watching the news stories, local and abroad, within even a few blocks of where she was at, and she'd be interceding, praying for them. That was amazing. That was beautiful. That's actually what intercessory prayer may be. But she taught me about things like Friday the 13th, is that you have the Sunday as the first day of the month, and you have the Friday the 13th on your hands. So dang, I got a little bit distracted with that. Oh, but so that's another example of a cycle. So you have different cycles going on like for whatever we have as a calendar, that you have the actual astrological, like what's going on with the planets, the moons, the all the different the trajectory of the planets, no less, are cyclical. But even our calendar, that's based on the planets, is such as to calibrate and calculate a calendar year, are also within cycles. And then within that, the actual days of the week and the month, they correspond in such a way that it's just simply that if you have a Sunday as the first day of the month, then you have a Friday the 13th on your hands. So you could say that all the things that have ever taken place on a Friday the 13th, horrible things, heaven forbid, like that would actually be like the type of stuff in folklore of Friday the 13th, or maybe just cool things like people having fun or dating, going to movies, whatnot, that would be special, like on a Friday the 13th. Whatever they had going on, it was this and that far away from a Sunday. That so the first day of their month, they had a first day of the month that was a Sunday. That's a cycle that's at play and has been at play, and it will continue to repeat like that. But as traffic goes by, like whatever traffic does and doesn't go by, that's a cycle of just the work week, the calendar. Yes, this is a Friday, so they might be going to lunch. So that restaurant over there, they have a discount on hamburgers on Friday. Not only Friday the 13th, but just on Friday, they have a discount on hamburgers at Friday. That I would see a car driving by on their way there. That car is corresponding with the fact that this is Friday, afternoon Friday, and that has that going on each Friday. So the fact that that car is right there is actually part of a cycle. That's just a very rudimentary example of how we exist within profound cycles upon cycles within cycles, about next to cycles, after cycles, before cycles, as cycles is what life is, from our actual body to the environment, which are not different. They're just different ranges of the same experience that we're experiencing. And so I think like I had a sometimes like people that have a background in something, they'll throw out like a word that they're very used to, but it sounds profound to you because you've never heard it before. Like, what? So I remember I had a personal trainer who's like, yeah, so these are your mesocycles. So you're getting ready to do this and that, and then your training is going to get up to this level, and then you're going to hit your mesocycles. I was like, damn, he must know what he's talking about, man. I'm gonna get strong as hell around this guy. I was thinking like that. But then also you have like your circadian rhythm. Like I think it's like, so there's complex relationships between your body and the sun and the moon. Part of it, like according to Osho, is just the habit, is that you are in the habit over a lifetime, likely, or as an ordinary civilian, that you would go to bed and start feeling tired around the time that the sun goes down. That was true of your entire experience of this life and your ancestors and their ancestors. So it's a deeply ingrained habit for human beings to go to bed when the sun goes down, and part of the tiredness of it might be the sun going down. But actually there's deeper like if you become a driver, like they train you as a driver, they train you that certain times of the day can hit you with that tiredness the same as the sun going down, but you don't know it, you can't see it, but you can feel it. So like sometimes like in the morning, or like maybe right around a certain points of the afternoon, you just start feeling tired. You've been awake, you're okay, you just start feeling tired for no reason for a while, but then you get past that hour or whatnot and you're okay again. That might have actually been something with the planets that was going on with the sun and whatnot that you can't see, but it actually plays into the fact that your normal sleep cycle. So yes, you go to bed at night, but also some of your tiredness might come about during the day at a certain time, and that's part of a deeper cycle that would have you resting at night healthy and get up the next day. It's not just that you get tired at night, but you get tired at times of the day that set you up within functions and cycles to then go to bed and be within the cycles to like hold down a job or just be productive during work hours. A lot of things go into that to keep us balanced like that. And that's actually that's a better word than health, is balance, because health is objective and also idealistic, because it implies like perfect, and even we're health perfect, it would no longer be health, because you need you need challenge in a degree of even what's called disease or bacteria or virus, whatnot, to be healthy, because it's a balance that we're looking for, not perfection, because perfection would be imbalanced. But so the cycles are very significant. And then when you have a synchronicity, the synchronicity, it might be one of these cycles, these ripples, these functions that played out in such a way that it could not be falsified, and it also has meaning because it'd have to have meaning that it happened like that. But you can't look past that that there's some form of order or symmetry or just meaning. It's profound because it confounds order, and as we appreciate order or reason and logic in linear progression, as we appreciate those, but yet it would have to speak to that par excellence that it happened that way, and that's what's profound with a coincidence or a synchronicity. But the deeper thing is just that we are yet connected, and we are an experience, the same experience. And so some of these synchronicities and these are they're a part of attendant and speak to that we are the same experience, yet that experience is cyclical and has meaning. And so these cycles, and when I say cyclical, I don't mean perfect as in a perfect circle, because that would be idealistic and anthropomorphic, overlaying a human concept onto a reality that's broader, deeper, and subtler than human reasoning with a preconceived, intentional perspective. So when you have synchronicities, it speaks to that we are the same experience, and we also are within profound cycles, and profound meaning. But I had so sometimes when someone says something to you, it might have been on your mind, or it has to do with what's going on. So I was getting up on a motorcycle when I made that video called Bidet, and I just have things that come into my mind. I found that one of the best ways to engage people is to say what's on your mind, because that's the real interaction that's actually happening between you, is what's on your mind, whether you enunciate it or not. And then so I was talking to like a neighbor as I was about to get on a motorcycle, because the motorcycle itself, it reminded me of a Puff Daddy video, I think from the 90s, about he sampled a rock song called "I'll Be Missing You," and it was like a tribute to Biggie Smalls after losing him. But the video had a backstory of someone falling on a motorcycle that didn't have to do with Biggie Smalls, and it kind of affected the way that I looked at motorcycles for a while. And but then when I came through a lot of living, and I somewhat became forced to get onto a motorcycle from circumstance, I realized how much I enjoy motorcycles, but I also have a little bit they were a little bit of a strong suit, because I did so much bicycle riding as a child. That's about the main thing I did as a child, was either bicycles or sports like basketball, but I did a lot of it. And so when I started getting back on a motorcycle, or getting back on a motorcycle, I was actually wondering like how I would do with the balance, because it's probably been about 12 years since I'd been on a bicycle. I have been passing a lot of bicycles in cars, but I hadn't been up on a bicycle in quite a while. So I was like, dang. No, I think I was at a job. I was doing like city bus driving in the Twin Cities, and like somebody forgot a bicycle on a bus, and so when I got off the bus, I had to stow the bicycle into storage, like the protocol for securing a lost item. And I think I might have rode the bicycle across the bus depot, like the garage, the underground, or just the garage. I think I got on the bicycle and I rolled it. That would be the first time. That was like 23. Before that, I hadn't been on a bicycle since probably about 2013. And then before that, it had probably been like 2012 before that. So it's been a while since I was on a bicycle. So I'm like, damn, am I even gonna know what it's like up on two wheels again? But it came back really quick, and I feel competent and confident on a motorcycle. Not overly confident and confident, because that's also a little bit green and rookie to feel overconfident, but just that it was still there for me. But that video of Puff Daddy back in the day, I don't know why, it just made me think twice about motorcycles. And then I think I might have been having cooler experiences if I had been on a motorcycle before that. But that just came to my mind. And so I was telling this lady that where I live, I was testing her. I was like, how you live in Biggie Smalls? And then I was gonna see if she would know the reference. In Mansion and Benz and giving ends to my friends, and it feels stupendous. That would be the answer to that pop quiz. But but then she was like, oh yeah, I just got done watching the series about Puff Daddy. I've been watching it, but you could tell that she'd probably been binge watching that series about Puff Daddy. And I would imagine a lot of people would binge watch like that about Puff Daddy. And I wanted to say that reminded me of when I first became a school bus driver in 2022. I worked summer school where I was at in the Twin Cities, Minnesota, and then I had an assignment for 2 weeks in Milwaukee. The Twin Cities was like a small school bus, but then Milwaukee was my first experience of a big school bus, and I ended up doing that over full school seasons. But with that first experience in Milwaukee, I got back from that after 2 weeks, and then there's this big series that was on about Jeffrey Dahmer, and he had been from Milwaukee. So I was just pointing out that it's just a little bit of a synchronicity that I had just got out Milwaukee that same fall and became a professional that same fall that series about heinous stuff that had happened in Milwaukee came out. But I had actually got out of Milwaukee. I had left Milwaukee before that series hit. But I remember back at that time, like a lot of people at those bases, like those jobs, and just in society, they were all about that series about Jeffrey Dahmer that had been like the craze, that series. And it's probably entertaining or just interesting and informative, those series about Jeffrey Dahmer and Puff Daddy. But they also, I think that it speaks to a few things, is that like why they would be so compelling, and they speak a little bit about stature and status and crime, but also the appreciation of crime, which is also part of stature and status, that's significant in the United States. That would actually be compelling to people, and maybe some of the subtle reason that people are interested in that type of programming beyond just the shock value of it. But I was pointing out that they actually show some distinctions, because one is that I would appreciate that they say a lot about stature and standing and what it is to be an adult and to be accountable as an adult. Both those men, Puff Daddy and Jeffrey Dahmer, for what they're accused of, but also their identity and their stature and their unique both those men had a unique stature and status that was significant. It was almost like a salient or a quintessential example of a certain archetype within society. Now, I would say that the more potent and forceful and compelling and also revered and respected of the two, between Puff Daddy and Jeffrey Dahmer, would be Jeffrey Dahmer, because I watched an interview with Jeffrey Dahmer where he was being interviewed by a journalist, and Jeffrey Dahmer, when he was I read a book about, I had a coworker when I was a pizza delivery driver. She was younger than me. She was probably about like 5 years younger than me, and she was a very intelligent woman. She was college educated. She went to college for psychology, but it was a very expensive degree, and I don't think she ended up working in the field or chose that line of work. But I'd still say that college benefited her, because she had made her way up to becoming a manager at she had made her way up to becoming a manager at a Domino sorry, I didn't mean to. She had made her way up to becoming a manager at a pizza place, and I had when I was a young person, like maybe this is probably like probably like 8 years before that, I got my first job out of high school.